Welcome to Boring History for Sleep. Tonight, we travel back in time, but not to the battlefields or the royal courts, not to the heroes or legends you might know from storybooks. Instead, we enter through a heavy wooden gate into silence. The thick, cool walls of a medieval monastery welcome you with stillness. Beyond the stone threshold lies a world not of noise, but of rhythm. A rhythm of bells and chores, of chants and manuscripts, of cold stone and colder mornings. Here, life unfolds, one slow, deliberate breath at a time. Let your breathing match that rhythm. Let your thoughts soften, your shoulders loosen, and gently imagine yourself there, not as a noble, not even as a monk, but as a novice, just beginning your quiet, cloistered life. The sun has not yet risen, and neither have you, but the bell tolls anyway. Its deep tone rolls through the stone halls, slow, deliberate, familiar. It doesn't startle you. You're used to it now. You rise from your straw mattress, no blanket, just a thin woolen robe. The room is cold, colder than the outside. Somehow, the stone absorbs the chill and gives it back to you in waves. You move without speaking. There are rules here, and silence is one of them, especially in the early hours. You walk barefoot across the cold floor. There is no fire yet. There rarely is. Fuel is scarce, and warmth is reserved for the chapel or the infirmary. You gather with the others in the chapel. The morning service is called matins. It begins in darkness, lit only by flickering oil lamps. You stand still, and you chant Latin, not your native tongue, but one you must learn. The rhythm of the chant is slow, like breathing, long syllables, drawn-out vowels. They float in the air, hover above the heads of the brothers, and vanish into the gloom. After matins, there is no rest, only chores and silence. You scrub floors, still chilled from the night air. Your fingers ache. The water is cold. The brush is worn. Your knees press into damp stone. But there is no complaint. There is no audience either. Only the stone walls, the simple wooden cross above the door, and the quiet creak of the mop. Later, you copy texts. You sit on a narrow bench, hunched over a wooden table. Ink made from crushed gallnuts and iron powder. Quills made from goose feathers, shaved and shaped by your own hand. Each letter, each curl, must be exact. One mistake, and you must scrape the parchment with a knife and begin again. The skin of the animal used to make that parchment is too precious to waste. Mistakes are not simply corrected. They are a shame, a mark of imperfection in a world that values quiet precision. You write until your back aches, until your neck stiffens, until your eyes blur in the dim candlelight. And still you write. The bells ring again, terse. Another prayer hour, then a meal, simple bread, maybe a bit of pottage, sometimes a sliver of dried fish. You eat slowly, still no talking. You finish. You return to chores. Maybe you tend the garden, pulling weeds from the herbal beds, or help in the scriptorium, or wash the robes in icy water drawn from the well. Each day, like the one before, each breath measured, each action repeated. There is comfort in the rhythm, and also confinement. You're still learning the rules, still adjusting to the weight of silence, still wondering if you've made the right choice. But you're here, and you're not alone. You are one quiet figure in a long procession of quiet figures, stretching back centuries, each with sore hands, tired knees, and a head full of verses they must never forget. As the sun sets, you return to the chapel. Another service, then more work, then Compline, the final prayer of the day. You chant again, slowly, softly, your voice blending with the others, like wind through pine trees. Finally, you return to your mattress, thin, but enough. You lay down. You do not speak. You close your eyes, and you wait for the bell. The rhythm of their lives, endless, quiet, measured, stone. Silence, scripture, sleep. Now, as the sun sets over the cloister walls, and the chanting fades into echoes, let us drift from the novice's daily rhythm into the story of one quiet figure. A man who lived by candlelight, who prayed in stillness, and who, once upon a time, believed that the world was ending. His name was Brother Adelard, or maybe Ethelred. The truth is, we don't know for sure. He lived in a remote English priory sometime in the early 11th century, before the Norman conquest, before printed books, before clocks ticked on walls. What we do know comes from faint ink on yellowed parchment, notes scribbled in the margins of psalms, a few pages in a dusty monastery record, and a strange prediction that never came true. Brother Adelard was not a famous man. He was not a bishop. He did not perform miracles. He never left the priory's stone walls. He was quiet, like the wind across a field, present and passing. Adelard spent much of his life copying texts. Like many monks of his age, he was trained in astronomy, or what they called astronomy then. He studied the stars, the phases of the moon, and ancient calendars written by Romans and Greeks. He believed, quite deeply, in the order of the heavens, that each planet moved for a reason, that eclipses foretold events, that the number 7 was divine. And sometime around the year 999, as whispers of a coming millennium spread across Europe, Brother Adelard began to worry. Not loudly, not in sermons, but in careful notes. Latin lines written into the margins of psalms, charts drawn in shaky ink beside pages of Genesis. He believed the world might end, perhaps not in fire, but in divine silence. The stars would align, the sun would darken, and God would close the book. He wasn't the only one. Many monks across Europe, from Burgundy to Bavaria, kept similar fears. Some said Christ would return, others that the devil would walk the earth, still others just prepared quietly, unsure of what would come. But he began to fast more often. He copied texts even more carefully. He warned the younger novices to confess their sins. He even wrote a letter to the bishop. The year turned from 999 to 1000. The bells rang, the sun rose. Nothing happened. No fires, no thunder, no trumpet blast. Just bread, prayer, and the cold stone of morning. There is a short note, one final scribble, found beside a weathered psalm, written, perhaps, by Adelard, or perhaps by another hand. It reads, "The world is not yet finished. There is more to copy." After that, the pages grow silent. No one knows when Brother Adelard died, but he likely faded into his chores, into chants, into the long procession of quiet brothers before and after him. He missed the apocalypse, but he kept writing, and the world just kept turning. As the sun rises again and the bells toll once more, we now turn our gaze toward a quieter beauty, not in fear, nor in failure, but in something painstaking and patient. Now, let us step softly into a different room, a room not filled with voices, but with colors, with parchment and brushes, gold leaf and dust, the scriptorium, It smells faintly of candle wax, of ink made from crushed oak galls, of drying paint and old wood. There is no sound, only the quiet rustle of a sleeve, the gentle scratch of a quill, and the whisper of a page being turned. This is where the manuscripts are born, not simply written, but illuminated. The word illuminated does not mean light in the way we know it now. It means lit up, with gold, with color, with art. To illuminate was to give glory, to turn words into something closer to prayer. Imagine yourself at the bench. The hour is long after matones, before the bell for none. You sit, robe bunched under you, facing a slanted wooden desk. Before you lies a single page of vellum, the smooth skin of a calf, scraped and stretched until nearly translucent. You dip your quill, careful not to let the ink blot. You trace the letter A, but not just any a historiated initial, where the letter blooms into a scene. Inside the bowl of the letter, you sketch a tiny angel, or perhaps a farmer plowing, or a king crowned and stiff. You do not rush. There is no schedule, no deadline. The work takes weeks, sometimes months. There are no pencils, no erasers, just your brush, your ink, your breath. To make red, you crush cinnabar, a mercury mineral. To make blue, lapis lazuli, ground from stone, brought by caravan from the mountains of Afghanistan. To make green verdigris, the rust scraped from aged copper. Each pigment is precious, each one mixed with egg white or honey to stick to the page. Then there is the gold, real gold, pounded into sheets, so thin they move with a whisper. You lay down a sticky paste called gesso. Wait then, with breath held, you press the gold leaf, and softly, gently, you burnish it with a dog's tooth or a smooth stone. It shines, even in the gloom of the scriptorium. The pages are more than decoration. They are prayers, they are hours, they are years. You paint dragons curled around capital letters, saints with pale halos, towers with crooked roofs, and margins filled with rabbits riding snails. Yes, truly, rabbits riding snails. Filled with jokes, beasts, and strange dreams. No one knows quite why. Perhaps the monks were bored. Perhaps the margins were where thoughts escaped. There is a kind of comfort in that even in silence, in discipline, in obedience, the mind wandered, the brush followed, and the gold still shone. When the book is finally bound, leather stretched, spine sewn with linen, it is heavy, precious, held not in hands, but in reverence. Some manuscripts survived 1,000 years, hidden in stone walls, stored in dark drawers, forgotten, then found, and when opened, they speak again, not loudly, not with sound, but in color, in careful strokes, in quiet wonder, as your breathing slows, all captured in the moment, all waiting in stillness for the next reader to dream. And now, as we leave the scriptorium and its shimmering pages behind, we rise slowly into the high halls where power and velvet walk together. We leave behind the quiet bench of the scriptorium now, rising up into another world, still within the walls of the monastery, yes, but a different kind of space, one with finer smells and softer fabric. Here the sandals are stitched from leather, not rope, the robes lined with fur, not straw, the hands ringed with silver and amethyst. Here you are no longer a novice, no longer even a simple monk. Now you are near the bishop, a man of rank, a man whose presence speaks, even when he is silent. You walk behind him in procession, The floors are swept. The air smells of incense and warm wax. Candles burn, not one at a time, but in dozens. You step into the abbot's hall, or perhaps a bishop's guest chamber. The walls are wood-paneled, not just stone, and though the windows are still small, they are glazed with real glass. In the corner, a table is set, not a slab, but a proper table, polished with a linen cloth laid smooth across it. Bowls of dried fruit, roasted fowl, perhaps a glazed eel, cold and curled. There is wine here, imported, stored in a cool cellar beneath the chapel. It is poured into pewter cups and sipped slowly during feasts that lasts long after dark. You do not speak unless addressed. You bow slightly when serving. You place the platter carefully, not touching the bishop's hand. His robe is deep violet, dyed with rare pigment, costly to produce. Around his waist, on his finger, a signet ring, heavy and cool to the touch. He uses it to seal letters, or documents, or decrees that change the fates of people far beyond the cloister's edge. The bishop does not till the fields. He does not scrub the floors. He prays, yes, but in a voice others listen to. He has power, and a quiet sort of splendor. Not like kings, but not like you either. The contrast is not cruel. It is simply order. As the world was understood, you return to the dormitory at night. While the bishop retires to a private chamber, he sleeps with a feather-stuffed cushion, a fire flickering in the hearth, perhaps a psalter beside his bed. In the morning, his shoes are cleaned, his vestments laid out, his bath warmed. This is not your world, but you glimpse it from the edge. And as years pass, if you rise in rank, if you are noticed, perhaps you too may hold the wine cup, the ring, the velvet. But for now, you simply watch the candles flicker and step carefully around his chair. You rise after prime, the second prayer of the day. The air in the dormitory is already thinning with the soft hush of movement. No voices, just cloth shifting, sandals brushing stone, and the faint echo of the bell still lingering. Today, your assignment is the laundry cloister. Water trickles slowly through it, always cold, even in midsummer. It runs along a trough where monks wash the robes of the brethren, the same robes worn every day, shaped from coarse wool and stained by candle smoke, garden soil, and days of silent labor. It is a cold corner of the monastery. Beneath your knees, the ground is hard and unforgiving. There is no cushion, no warmth. You adjust your robe so it doesn't drag in the water, gently, slowly, tucked near the outer wall, away from the warmth of the kitchens, away from the hum of the scriptorium, away from the incensed chapel. Not offensive, just old wool, oil, and the scent of quiet living. You reach for the soapwort pasta, thick greenish pulp, crushed by hand days ago. Here, life moves to a different rhythm. The cloistered laundry yard opens to a stony channel fed by a local spring. You move with quiet purpose. The others are already there. Lay brothers mostly, who do not sing the full divine office, but whose hands bear the truth of obedience. One has a wooden paddle, another holds a bundle of folded robes. Not punishment, not loud, not today. Today the clouds press low, and the wind moves through the cloister like breath through reeds. Just a vibration in his chest, a psalm perhaps, or a memory. He hums, but no one speaks. Warm cauldrons, sheltered washhouses, but not here. Here, the labor is shared, humbling, dripping slowly. The rhythm of water is like the rhythm of breath, quiet, enduring, cold, just rhythm. Another stands ankle-deep in the icy runoff, inspecting the channels for blockage, not relief, just presence. The tools are simple: a worn brush, a stone slab, a bucket, then your wrists, but your movements never speed up. The laundry does not reward haste. You stir it slowly during your break. The steam rises, smells sharp. You kneel beside the trough. The stone is wet, mossy in places. The first robe is thick, heavier now, soaked with the cold stream water. You heave it onto the stone. The smell is earthy. You rub it into the cloth with both hands. The rhythm begins, not fast, not demanding, just steady. Scrub, pause, rinse. Scrub, pause, rinse. The cold creeps into your fingers. You wring the robe carefully, twist it with your weight. The water spills back into the trough with a soft splash. You hang it on a thick rope stretched between two beams. Drip, drip, the next robe, soaked, heavy. You feel it pull at your shoulders. You repeat the process. A slow, methodical penance. One of the older brothers hums a note. Sometimes, when the sun is bright, the steam from drying cloth catches the light like mist. You remember stories of other monasteries, ones with laundresses. You scrub another robe. Your fingers now numb, move more from memory than sensation. Still, you work. One of the lay brothers passes behind you with a new bundle. He nods, you nod back. No words, just acknowledgement. Robes are lined across the yard like tired flags. In the corner of the cloister, a fire smolders beneath a hanging pot. It is not for warmth, it's for boiling lye soap. You do not mind it. Your hands rest near the heat, and you exhale. Later, you return to the trough. More robes, more rhythm. Scrub, rinse, wring, hang. The sky begins to dim as sext approaches. The bell will toll soon. You gather the last robe. You lift, you clean, you twist. Your back aches, but it is a quiet ache. You hang the final robe as the bell begins to ring. A low, long sound. You bow your head. You fold your hands, and the water still trickles. The cloth still drips. The cold still lingers. But in it, there is peace. Not comfort, not warmth, but peace. The rhythm of their lives continues, unchanging, enduring, soft. The bell sounds, not loud, but firm. A single tone that ripples through the stone corridors and echoes down the cloister walk. It is not a command, not a summons, but a reminder. You rise from your task, perhaps from tending the garden, or copying scripture, or carrying firewood to the kitchens. You do not speak, you do not rush, you fall into step behind the others. A quiet procession, brown robes moving in slow synchrony through archways worn smooth by centuries of feet. A signal to pause, to transition, to move from one rhythm to the next. The corridors, with their low arches and worn paving stones, stretch ahead of you. You duck slightly to enter. As always, the room is long and narrow, lined with rough timber tables and benches. A whispered prayer. He speaks slowly, not to perform, but to mark time. Each word floats through the hall like incense. You listen, but not intently. The words are not entertainment. They are presence. Then the signal. The reader begins. The walls are bare stone, cool, even in summer, and the windows are high, small, and unglazed. Light filters through them in soft beams, angled and pale, casting long shadows on the flagstone floor. Lentil potaja, thick, grainy stew, flavored with root vegetables and herbs from the cloister garden. A wedge of bread, sometimes dry, sometimes slightly warm. Occasionally, a pickled onion. Not far, just soft detours. You wonder about the onions, how they were pulled from the soil in the early dawn, cleaned by hand, stored in a basket. You picture the hands that stirred the pot, slowly, with a wooden paddle worn at the edges, wooden, rounded, smoothed from years of use. You do not clatter it against the bowl, you do not slurp. Every movement is careful, respectful. On feast days, perhaps a slice of cheese or salted fish. The air is cool, faintly scented with rosemary from the herb garden, and the tang of boiled grain from the kitchen beyond the walls. It is a smell you know well, not unpleasant, but deeply ordinary, hands folded, to humble, to unify. Today it may be the life of Saint Benedict, but not speech, never speech. Even the simplest sound becomes rhythmic, joining the pulse of the reader's voice. Yesterday it was a portion from Ecclesiastes. Tomorrow no one knows. But it does not matter. The rhythm is the same. Eyes down, waiting. All of it, labor, silent and shared, performed with neither pride nor complaint. Just duty, just rhythm. Spoon, pause. There is no hurry. Chew, listen. Spoon again. It is the hour of the midday meal. Each footstep falls into place, like the ticking of a great, unseen clock. The refectory stands to the east, its heavy wooden doors weathered and low. A silence fills the space, not tense, but reverent. The hush is not emptiness, it is full of shared purpose. You take your place at the bench, assigned to you the same place you have sat for many months, maybe years. Seating does not change without reason. The hierarchy is gentle but firm. The elders sit closer to the reader's pulpit, the novices near the rear. You lower your body in silence. The reader steps up to the wooden stand. He adjusts his robe, then opens a thick book, its pages worn, its script familiar. The abbot lifts his hand. His voice is soft, measured. You turn to your bowl. It is simple, carved from wood, passed down through many hands. Within it, a modest meal. There is no meat unless the calendar permits. And even then, rarely, you lift your spoon. You chew slowly. The food is not meant to be savored. It is meant to sustain. The reader continues. And Brother Matthew, being filled with doubt, went into the wilderness to pray. You hear the scraping of spoons, the soft rustle of fabric, the quiet sigh of someone adjusting on the bench. You sit in this rhythm. Your thoughts drift, as they often do. You recall the grinding wheel of the mill, the sacks of barley, the root cellar with its earthy breath. Your body settles into the familiarity of the meal. The bowl warms your palms. The pottage fills you without overfilling. You do not count the spoonfuls. There is only presence. Another reader once stumbled on a word, a foreign saint's name, but the monks do not mind. It is not the content that matters. It is the practice of listening, the flow, the sameness, the shape of the moment. The pause lasted to full breaths. No one laughed, no one stirred. He folds his hands and bows his head. You note it only distantly. It does not change your pace. You are still chewing, still listening. He corrected himself gently and read on. Its wax has formed a soft puddle around the base. A slow drip forms, grows, then falls silently, over and over again. Sometimes the readings are moral stories, sometimes cautionary tales, sometimes dry lists of ecclesiastical deeds. A novice across from you finishes first. When you glance up, your gaze falls on the candle burning near the pulpit. A cup drops, it clatters on stone. The sound echoes. The reader stops for just 1 second, then resumes. The cup is retrieved. No one speaks. The noise in your mind is quiet. A bell is struck once. Its tone lingers, soft and weightless. Even disturbances here follow the rhythm. There is a second course today than usual. A slice of dark bread with a smear of chestnut paste. It is a treat. One offered perhaps for the feast of a lesser-known saint. You accept it quietly. You chew slowly, tasting the earthy sweetness. You do not smile, but you are aware. Past the benches, past the candle, through the corridor where light bends around the stone. Toward the end of the meal, you begin to feel full. Not stuffed, just balanced. Your body has what it needs. Your breath is steady. The reader closes the book. He does not mark his place. He knows where he stopped. He steps down. You set your spoon down. Fold your hands, your eyes close for a breath, then open. You rise with the others. Not just the food, but the silence. You will not mention the reading. He will not mention the meal. But both of you will remember the repetition, the reverence. No talking. You file out in the same line you entered. You feel the meal settling inside you. In the garden later, you may see the reader from today, perhaps tending the grapevines. You will remember the sound of the spoon, the echo of the cup, the candle drip, the echo of that single bell. And in that remembering, the rhythm will live on, soft, steady, sacred, always. Beyond the scriptorium, past a narrow archway, veiled by a heavy woolen curtain, lies a chamber few enter without permission. The monastery library. It is not large, not grand, no towering shelves or marble columns, just a modest stone room with low beams, thick air, and a stillness deeper than silence. The scent meets you first. A blend of old vellum, beeswax polish, dried sage, and the quiet residue of centuries. Not many, perhaps 50, maybe fewer. Each one hand-copied, bound in leather, stitched with care, and sometimes chained to desks. The chains are not punishment, they are guardianship. The books do not leave, not because they are forbidden, but because they are too treasured. It settles deep in your lungs, not strong, but distinctive, familiar, if you have been here before, reverent, if you have not. To read without speaking aloud is new, modern, foreign. A meditation in color and shape. The script flows in tight, careful curves, black ink, red rubric, gold leaf in the capital. The page looks as if it were spun from patience itself. Here, reading is heard. His voice is low and rhythmic, not for others to listen, but because it helps the meaning breathe. The syllables float through the air like prayer, the kind of stillness that seems to stretch and settle over the shoulders like a woolen cloak. Time feels different here, slower, steady, unmoved by the outside world. You pass through the threshold slowly, careful not to let the curtain sway too much. You read. The walls are lined with cupboards, heavy, locked wooden cabinets that store the most precious possessions of the monastery. Books. Some of the cupboards are engraved, not intricately, but purposefully. A cross, a vine, a Latin phrase. The keys are kept on a ring that the librarian wears with quiet pride. Within them, more volumes, missals, psalters, hagiographies, medicinal texts, treatises on stars and herbs, each one a lifetime of work, each letter copied with deliberate reverence. No text is hurried, no page is disposable. In this room, repetition is its own kind of prayer. Familiar words fall into your mind like smooth stones into a riverbed. A privilege, not power. He walks the room slowly, not to monitor, but to protect. Light filters in from two narrow slits in the wall, softened by parchment, stretched across the openings. It does not warm the room, but it offers enough glow to see, and not enough to fade the ink. The sun shifts during the day, casting angled beams across the stone floor that moves silently like sundials without numbers. You walk slowly across the stone floor. Each footfall echoes like a whispered question. In the corner, an elder monk sits hunched at a desk. He is not writing. He is reading, softly, audibly, as was the way. You approach a wooden lectern. Upon it, an open book rests, illuminated, its margins lined with vines and birds. Not decorative devotional. You do not touch it yet. Your fingers hover. You wait. Then, gently, you turn the page. The parchment crinkles faintly. E.T. factum est vesperae. E.T. main dies primus ... And the evening and the morning were the first day. It is not a new passage. You have read it before. But repetition does not diminish meaning. The librarian moves about quietly. He wears a key on his belt. It opens the cupboards. You remember the scriptorium where they are made, the scraping of quills, the grinding of pigment, the smell of vinegar and soot, the silence punctuated only by the sigh of breath or the flick of a page, the slow, deliberate crafting of a single letter, 1 page per day, perhaps, 2, if the scribe is skilled, if his eyes do not burn, if his hand does not shake, marked with a small drawing, as if to wink at the reader centuries later. The sacred lives beside the strange, the divine and the daily sit side by side. These flourishes are not distractions, they are reminders. Even in Scripture, there is room for wonder, and still errors are made, sometimes corrected, carefully scraped away with a knife, sometimes embraced. In the margins, a tiny rabbit chases a snail. In another, a monk scolds a grinning devil with a raised finger. You sit. Of the craftsman who prepared the hide, scraped it, stretched it, polished it, the book is not just words, it is layers of labor, flesh, ink, memory, on a stool carved long ago. Its seat is polished smooth from generations of readers. You open another book. This one is heavier. The cover smells of smoke, perhaps kept near the hearth once. Its clasps creak softly. Inside, the script is dense, a treatise on humility. The letters smaller. Its wick flickers in the gloom. You have not noticed how dim the room has become. The light dances across the ceiling beams, more compact. Each passage weighs down your thoughts, like sand settling in a glass jar. You read slowly, word by word, savoring the weight of each. The elder monk clears his throat softly and turns a page. The room does not change. The air remains still, past the cupboards, past the chained volumes, past the bench where the elder monk still reads. A bee buzzes near the window but does not enter. Outside, somewhere, a bird calls. Inside, nothing answers. There are no clocks, no reminders, no end to the reading, but the quiet call of your own stillness. You run your hand gently over the corner of the page. You feel the texture of the vellum. You think of the animal it came from. You read a passage about silence. It describes it as a vessel, not emptiness, but something that holds. It resonates. Time passes. The beams of light shift. Another book catches your eye. Smaller, bound in soft leather, faded and stained. You approach and open it. A list of medicinal herbs, drawings in the margins, notes in the side, column perhaps from the monk who used it. He has written, in delicate script, for headaches, Soak willow bark in wine. Pray over it. Take with stillness. Even medicine begins with silence. The librarian lights a single candle. You are not tired, but you feel heavy, anchored. The books have slowed your breath. You rise, bow slightly to the librarian. He nods. You do not speak. You walk the length of the room again. You pause at the door. You glance back. Nothing has moved. Nothing has changed. The room is the same as when you entered. You press through the woolen curtain, step into the corridor, and the wisdom remains behind, waiting, always waiting, quiet, unmoved, locked, but never lost. The monastery does not run on clocks, not in the way the world outside does. It is not minutes and seconds that move your day, but bells. Not by the tick of a second hand or the whir of a machine, but by echoes. Echoes that spill from the bell tower and seep into stone, wood, and habit. The bell is not a machine. It is a voice. It does not count. It calls. And those bells live above in the tall, square tower of stone that casts its long shadow across the cloister garden. The bell tower. You stir in your cot not from light, but from sound. A single, solemn tone rolling down from above. It is not harsh, not hurried. It does not shock you awake. It gathers you, draws you upward like a tide draws a ship. This is the bell for vigils. Long before the rest of you stirred, he rose. He lit a small lantern with flint and tinder. They are relics, voices of the sacred. He listens to the silence, waits for the right moment, not according to a clock, but by feel, by presence. Cast in bronze, their surface is dark and smooth. The clappers hang at rest, not wildly, not in a frenzy, but in a slow, deliberate arc. The clapper strikes the side. The sound spills into the air. Thick ropes trailed down from their frames, looped and ready. He dressed, steady and practiced, and made his way through the cloister to the foot of the bell tower. Time here is measured differently. A second bell, then silence. The message is clear. Rise. Only narrow slits in the walls, like half-open eyes, letting in dawn air and the cry of distant crows. The monk climbs in silence. He does not need the light of the lantern. His feet know each turn. His hand brushes the wall, only occasionally to steady himself. Stand slowly. Wash your face in cold water from the basin. Pull your robe around your shoulders and step out into the corridor. Everywhere it reaches. The others are already there, silent, moving like shadows toward the chapel. It begins before dawn, long before the sun has touched the eastern hills. You lie there, eyes open in the dark, listening as the sound fades into the stone of your cell. You do not move quickly. There is no alarm, no rush. You fold your blanket carefully, but up in the tower, another monk has already been awake. The stairs are steep and narrow, spiraling up with no railing. Each step is worn in the center from centuries of sandals, vigils, lauds, prime, terce, sext, nun, vespers, compline, each with its own call, each with its own sound. The bells are tuned to these moods. They shine with a gentle polish, earned not from hands, but from habit. The air grows cooler with each ascent. The stone smells of dust and wind. There is no window. At the top is the bell chamber. Here, time stands still. The bells hang above like patient giants. They are not just objects. The monk places his lantern on a stone ledge. He waits. He breathes. The monastery must be in sync. Then he pulls the rope. The bell swings, low, resonant, long. It rolls outward through the slit windows, over rooftops and trees, across fields and sky. Down below, you hear it, in your cell, in the chapel, in the garden. You rise, you respond. The monastery shifts, and so begins the rhythm of the day. Each bell marks a shift, not in activity, but in spirit. From sleep to prayer, from silence to labor, from labor to meal, from reflection to rest. The names of the hours are ancient. Vigils is slow, sonorous, as if echoing from beneath the ground. Lauds is brighter, greeting the new sun. Sext is even calm, like the peak of a quiet day. Vespers is warm, low, rounding the day into dusk. You grow used to them. They shape you. You begin to sense their coming, not by looking, but by feeling. Your body tunes to the cycle. You no longer ask, "What time is it?" Instead, you wait for the next bell. You duck your head as you enter. Your sandals tap gently on the first steps. As you climb, the air becomes colder. You can smell the ancient wood of the beams, the faint soot of old candles, the scent of nesting doves that sometimes roost in the corners. It will tell you what you need to know. You feel small and steady. Sometimes, between prayers, you are asked to ring the bell. It is an honor, not given lightly. You approach the tower with reverence. The door is low. At the top, the world feels far away. The monastery is below you. The trees surround you. The sky opens above. You take hold of the rope. It is thick, coarse in your hands. You do not tug, you breathe slowly. They rise from their reading, from their tending, from their prayer, and they move thoughtfully. Each step a return to the ordinary world. You pull once, the bell responds. It moves slowly, like an old animal rising from sleep. Then it sings. The crows shift on their branches. It flows, like the wind that moves through the open slits. The sparrows flit away. The trees absorb the note. The leaves seem to hush. It stores no books. It holds no relics. It houses only sound. And the memory of sound, its tone, does not change. You hear it as you did when you first arrived, and one day, when you are gone, others will hear it too. They will not know your name, but they will know the rhythm you once followed, not to deface, but to remember. A date, a verse, a tiny fish symbol, messages that no longer need to be read. They only need to know when it is time to turn inward, to turn to prayer, to turn to rest. Some say it was an omen, others a coincidence, but the sound was remembered for decades. You wait for the bell, and when it does not come, you feel the absence. It is not emptiness, it is a presence of another kind. They simply rest, like dust. Even when the bell is still, you can hear where it has been. The note is not just heard, it is felt in your chest, in the tower stones. It passes through you. You ring again and again. Then you wait, you descend, back in the cloister. Your brothers look up at the sound. The bell does not command, it invites. The tower itself is quiet when empty. It is not a place of words. Some monks have carved small marks into the stone walls of the tower. Once, during a storm, lightning struck near the tower. The air shook. The bell rang on its own. Other times, the bell does not ring at all. On days of mourning, on fast days, the silence is louder than sound. Even the birds pause when the bell sounds. The bell tower has no clock face. No numbers. Time here is not segmented. It is not owned. The monks do not need to know how many minutes have passed. And the bell tells them it always has, it always will. Even as you grow older, the bell sounds the same. They will rise, they will move, and the bell will continue, tall, patient, steady, marking the hours not with noise, but with stillness, with memory, with the sacred hum of silence made audible. Timekeeping, not for the world, but for the soul, as soft as sleep, as old as prayer. Down a narrow corridor behind the refectory, past a creaking wooden door that always sticks in the damp, lies the heart of the monastery you rarely hear about. The kitchen. It is not grand. It is not warm in the way a home hearth might be. It smells not of sweetness or spice, but of smoke, cabbage, and old iron. It is a place of humility, of patience. The corridor is dark and chill, lined with damp stones that glisten faintly with condensation. Your breath ghosts ahead of you. You pull your robe tighter and push the door open with both hands. And above all, rhythm. No conveniences, just hands, ash, and habit. The floor is packed dirt, swept daily, but never truly clean. He leans close, whispering breath like prayer. The flames catch, flicker, and slowly rise. Milk only appears in spring, and meat reserved for feast days. Perhaps a small fish on Fridays, if it was caught. Long wooden tables rest beneath aging beams, darkened by centuries of soot. Along the far wall sits the heartha, gaping blackened maw that swallows logs, coals, and time. You rise before sunrise. The bell has called you to vigils, and afterward your duties lead you to the kitchen. Inside, the room is dim. Smoke curls upward through a hole in the roof where the chimney draft fails more often than not. You are not alone. Another monk is already there, crouched by the fire pit, coaxing embers back to life with flint and dry straw. Sparks leap. You walk to the well, lower it hand over hand, feel it hit with a soft splash. You wait, then lift. The weight is real. The cold splashes onto your sandals. Back inside, you pour the water into the copper pot that hangs from a hook above the fire. You stir it now. The spoon is long and heavy. You must switch arms every few minutes. Each bowl is wiped at the rim. The monks will collect them silently, carry them to the refectory, and eat in silence. The porridge thickens. It bubbles. You taste a single spoonful. It is bland, as always, but it will warm the body. There are no matches. You begin by fetching water. The bucket is heavy, iron-handled, cold to the touch. The fire is fed again. Bread is prepared for the next day. You measure coarse flour into a wide wooden bowl. Add water, just enough. Begin to knead. The dough resists. It is sticky, then heavy. Your shoulders ache, but you continue. It will take an hour to boil. While you wait, you begin to sort the stores. You work steadily, no rush, each cut precise, repeated, mindful. The vegetables are placed into the copper pot with water and a pinch of herbs. You add a little barley for body. There is no abundance. Shelves lined with root vegetables, potatoes, onions, leeks, a few winter apples wrapped in cloth, bunches of dried herbs, sage, thyme, sometimes a little rosemary. Salt is kept in a wooden box with a tight lid, precious, counted, used sparingly. There are dried lentils, barley in sacks, sacks of flour mixed with bran. Oil is rare, butter rarer still. But you do not complain. This is not a kitchen of indulgence. This is a kitchen of order. Twice a day, meals are prepared. Once in the morning, once in the early evening. No one eats in between. there are no snacks, no indulgences. Breakfast is porridge. Oats soaked overnight in water, cooked slowly, stirred constantly to avoid burning. You ladle the porridge into wooden bowls, one by one. You do not spill. Each portion is modest. After breakfast, the kitchen is cleaned. Bowls are rinsed with cold water. The pot is scraped, fold, press. There is no yeast, only time. As midday approaches, the next meal is begun. Today, broth. You peel onions slowly, their skins like paper. Carrots, trimmed and scrubbed. Turnips, rough and solid. All are chopped with a wide, dull knife. Then you wait. The broth simmers. Steam rises in soft tendrils. The smell is faint, not savory, just earthy, rooted. You skim the top with a wooden spoon. You stir gently. This will cook for hours. During Lent, the broth is even thinner. Just water with a few shavings of root. No oil, no butter. The flavor is barely there. But that is the point. Simplicity, sacrifice, reflection. You feel hunger, but you are not troubled by it. Others carry in baskets of apples or small bundles of dried herbs from the garden. No one speaks unless necessary. The silence of the monastery extends even here. Hunger becomes a teacher, a companion. It reminds you to breathe slowly, to give thanks. You take a moment to sit on a stool near the hearth. You listen to the fire crackle. You warm your hands. Other monks pass through. Some bring empty bowls. The cook rarely eats first. He serves others. That is his vow, to nourish before being nourished, to give before taking. Some monks work in this kitchen for decades. They are known not for their voices, but their presence, the way they stir without stopping, the way they know when the bread is done by scent, the way they wipe their hands clean on the same cloth tied to their belt. They are not seen at every prayer, but their work is holy. Every cut, every stir, every bowl passed down the line is a kind of prayer. In summer, the kitchen is hot, air thick with steam. You wipe your brow, sleeves damp with effort. In winter, the cold gnaws at your feet, your fingers crack. Still, you work. On feast days, the kitchen swells with activity. A rare chicken, honey from the hives, cakes made from ground almonds, wine diluted with water. But today is not a feast. Today is an ordinary day. And so you make broth. You check the pot, add a pinch of salt, stir again. The bell rings. Time to serve. You ladle out the broth, one bowl, then another, then another. The monks file in, receive their food, bow their heads. The refectory fills with the sound of spoons against bowls. No words, just nourishment. You return to the kitchen, clean the pot, sweep the floor, tend the fire for tomorrow. Another day begins with hunger and ends with enough, a rhythm of simplicity, of service, of warm hands, empty bowls, and slow breath, where even steam carries a kind of blessing, where every meal is a meditation, and every sip of broth a quiet hallelujah. As dusk folds itself across the stone walls of the monastery, a deeper quiet settles. Not an absence, but a fullness, a thick, velvety stillness that touches every beam, every stare, every breath. There is no sense of urgency, no final push toward a finish. The day has moved slowly, and now it slows even further. The sun has dipped beyond the distant hills, and the last of its light paints long shadows in the cloister walkways. You stand at the edge of that light, watching it slip away, knowing this moment not as an end, but as a return. The sounds change. The gravel path softens underfoot, the distant rustle of robes. Your touch is slow, not seeking, just affirming. You are here, still here, like the monks before you. The click of wooden sandals against stone. In this quiet, everything has weight, not heavy, but grounding. Each small moment is acknowledged, not skipped. The turning of the latch on your door, the creak of the hinges, the sigh of the wood. Even the act of entering your cell is a ritual. And then stillness. The chanting of terse. The moment your hand lingered too long in the bread dough. The way you carried the basin of water to your elder's cell without spilling a drop. Each act woven together. The rhythms of the day, shaped by bells, breath, and repetition, begin to soften, unravel, and rest. The cot is made a blanket folded square across the foot. The robe, worn from years of use, wraps gently around your shoulders. You pull it tighter and exhale, a long, slow breath. No revelations arrive, no visions disturb the stillness, only the hum of quiet memory. The basin is clean. The cross on the wall catches the pale moonlight. The slow, practiced tying of its cords. The steady breath you took before stepping out into the world of prayer and task. The same breath you take now. Your body has become a book of movements, each chapter a routine, each paragraph a breath. There is nothing new here, and that is the comfort. Nothing to expect, nothing to alter. You can feel it. The air cools. The wind no longer rustles. The doors groan once more as they close for the night and then fall silent. Even the birds, who nested in the bell tower eaves, have grown quiet, as if the world knows that night in the monastery is not for noise. The final prayer has been spoken in the chapel, voices raised in harmony, then lowered into shared silence. It hushes, not because it must, but because it can. There is nothing more to do, no tasks remaining, only the ritual of rest. You walk slowly down the corridor toward your cell, and each footstep feels like part of a lullaby. The scent of incense still lingers in the corridors, a whisper of devotion. The last bowl in the kitchen has been rinsed with cold water and placed on the shelf. The coals in the hearth have been pushed together, huddling for warmth. The final ember glows like the last eyelid slipping closed. The monastery does not sleep like the world outside does. It does not shut down. It dims, like a candle, slowly pulling its flame back inward. The path is dim, lit only by moonlight and memory. The stones beneath your feet are familiar, each one smoothed by centuries of footsteps. Your own bare soles know them intimately. The uneven edge near the west transept, the warm patch near the sunlit wall, the slick spot by the garden door. Your fingers brush the walls, cool to the touch. Their surface carries the scent of old incense and winter damp. There is no need to hurry. You are not alone. You are not afraid. You enter your cell. It is as you left it this morning. It always is. You sit on the edge of the cot and remove your sandals. The floor is cool. You think of the way you folded your robe this morning. Each gesture of your day returns in a gentle echo. The bell that woke you, the bowl of warm porridge. Each moment, nothing special, but all of it sacred. The candle at your bedside flickers. You watch it. The flame dances for no one. It is not there to illuminate, only to remind that this space has been occupied by those before you. You place your hands across your chest, close your eyes, and breathe. A slow inhale, a slower exhale, and it will be occupied after you. The flicker, becomes familiar. A soft pulse in the room. You lie down. The cot creaks slightly beneath your weight. The wool blanket is rough but warm. Somewhere in the tower, the bell rope sways with the wind. It does not ring. It rests. Its day is done, like yours. You do not feel triumph. You feel stillness. There is no need to measure the day. No accounting of achievements. Only the knowing that you moved through it as you were called to. Slowly, mindfully, repetitively. This is not a failure. It is peace. Outside the world may rush. Lights may flicker. Voices may rise. A monastery is not a place. It is a rhythm. But here, in this ancient place, time has always moved to a different rhythm. And now, that rhythm quiets to almost nothing. It becomes breath. You listen to your own, slow, steady, and when the bell rings again, whether in hours or in centuries, you will rise. In hush, sleep deeply, sleep as they did, and let the silence hold you in the weight of ritual. The kind of breath that has moved through these walls for centuries, and the stillness will deepen as it always has. Just to the kitchen, where the loaves rest for tomorrow. To the bell tower, whose shadow stretched across the cloister this morning. To the garden, where the last apple clung to its branch. To the laundry line, now still. You are not the first to sleep here, and you will not be the last. The cook who stirred broth in a pot long melted away. It lifts a strand of hay in the stable. It brushes past the window slit. It carries no message, only presence. The sandals worn smooth by years of silent passage. Their breath now joins yours, not in sound, but in rhythm. Your thoughts drift not far. You think of the monks who came before. The hands that carved the cross above your bed. The voice who first rang the morning bell. Outside, the wind curls through the corridors, soft and unobtrusive. You drift, not into dreams, not yet, but into stillness. You are part of something old, something slower than clocks, something quieter than silence. And you, in this cell, wrapped in this robe, beneath this moon, you are inside the heartbeat of something ancient. And so, you sleep. Not in haste, not in fear, not in longing, but in rhythm. The rhythm will wait for you. Sleep now. The candle will burn down. The wax will puddle. The breath will slow, as it always will. Imagine stepping softly beyond the stone walls of the monastery, leaving behind the cold echoes of the cloister for a moment. Before you lies the abbey garden, a sanctuary within a sanctuary. Each plant has been chosen not for beauty alone, but for its purpose, healing, sustenance, prayer. The garden breathes quietly under the vast sky, the sun filtering through leaves of towering oaks that stand like ancient sentinels, their branches whispering in the gentle breeze. The air here is cooler, filled with the faint scent of damp earth, herbs, and wood smoke drifting from a distant chimney. The texture is coarse, yet comforting, a reminder that nature's gifts are sometimes rugged but reliable. His fingers are nimble, deft. The sun warms his back, casting long shadows that stretch across the beds. The water is poured gently at the roots of thirsty plants, droplets soaking into the dry soil. There is no rush here. Each task is an offering. Patience and care balanced on the fragile line between survival and surrender. You can almost hear the quiet prayers whispered under his breath, words of thanks and hope woven into the earth itself. Nearby, the scent of thyme rises from a low bush, sharp and clean against the soft earth. The soil is dark and heavy, still holding the slow memory of winter beneath its surface. As you step onto the worn cobblestones, the crunch of your sandals is softened by centuries of footsteps and moss. The garden is arranged with care, beds of herbs and vegetables laid out in neat rows, bordered by low stone walls and winding paths. You walk slowly along a path lined with lavender and rosemary, brushing your fingers lightly over the rough, piney needles. In the abbey garden, every leaf and root carries meaning. Parsley is gathered for its cleansing properties. Sage is dried carefully for teas to soothe fevers. Each morning, as dawn breaks, the monks rise and step into this outdoor chapel of nature. With hands worn from years of labor, they tend the soil, water the plants, prune branches, and harvest leaves. Their movements are deliberate, almost ritualistic, a dance between human and earth that has played out for generations. Marigolds are pressed into salves for wounds, their golden petals promising comfort. Fennel seeds, with their faint aniseed aroma, are saved to aid digestion and calm nerves. The rhythm of the garden is slow and steady. You watch as a monk kneels beside a bed of young carrots, pulling weeds carefully so as not to disturb the fragile roots beneath. Water is carried from the well in heavy buckets, their iron handles cold against bare hands. In summer, the beds swell with leafy greens and fragrant flowers, the colors vibrant beneath the warm sun. Winter is a time of rest, the soil blanketed by frost, silent save for the occasional crackle of ice. The garden shifts with the seasons. In spring, tender shoots break through the thawing earth, tentative yet unstoppable. You close your eyes, letting the calm settle over you like a gentle cloak. The world beyond these walls rushes and clamors, but here time moves to a different rhythm. It is a rhythm of patience, of waiting, of quiet growth. The breeze carries the scent of pine and earth and distant smoke, weaving them together like a slow lullaby. It is a sanctuary not just for plants, but for the souls who tend them. The monks are not merely farmers or gardeners. They are keepers of ancient knowledge, combining faith and medicine in delicate balance. A root dug carefully, cleaned in cool water, sliced thin. The only sounds are those of life itself, the drip of water, the scrape of a hoe against soil, the distant toll of the abbey bell. Words are few. When monks do speak, their voices are low and measured, blending into the gentle hum of the day. A handful of flowers gathered at dawn before their oils evaporate in the sun. Each act of tending is a prayer, a meditation, a humble attempt to partner with nature's gifts. How it should be prepared, how its essence can be captured in tea ointment or poultice. Healing is at the heart of the garden's purpose. The work here is slow, a leaf picked, pressed between pages. The garden is also a place of silence. In the cool shade beneath an ancient oak, you pause. You breathe in deeply. The scent of lavender fills your senses, soothing and soft. This garden, humble and unassuming, holds a secret power, the power to heal, to calm, to sustain. And as you open your eyes, you know that tomorrow, as the sun rises once more, the rhythm will begin again. Is a place shaped not by sunlight or singing, but by shadows, silence, and ink. It is a sanctuary of words, not spoken, but slowly etched onto parchment in careful, deliberate strokes. It is not a place where thoughts are formed, but where they are preserved. And something older, more difficult to name, the scent of thought, perhaps. Beside you, a shelf holds your tools. a penknife for shaping quills, small pots of ink sealed with wax, a palette of pigments, sheets of scraped vellum, and a candle stub in a clay holder. This room is neither warm nor cold. It simply is, unchanged, timeless. Night does not interrupt its rhythm. In fact, it deepens it. You've been working on this one for weeks, a few lines each evening. It's not rushed. Nothing in the scriptorium ever is. Into their rhythm. You do not need to think about the spelling. You've seen these verses countless times. The flame leans in as though trying to read over your shoulder. You shield it briefly with your hand. Its warmth brushes your skin, but no one speaks. This is a language of labor, not conversation. The words have meaning, and in repetition, they become prayer. Then you sit in silence for a moment, not from tiredness, but from reverence. Through narrow stone corridors, you walk with a small candle in hand, your robe brushing the cold floor. The walls are lined with deep recesses, places where statues of saints silently observe centuries of labor. Your quill glides over it, the ink settling into the fibers. Mistakes are rare, but when they happen, they are scraped away with care and a prayer. Your footfalls echo softly as you enter the scriptorium, a room that breathes with the weight of time. The scent greets you first, a mix of beeswax, old vellum, the metallic tang of iron gall ink. You take your seat at a wooden desk worn smooth at the edges. You arrange these carefully, each in its place. Your hands move slowly. First, the quill. You test the nib, adjust its edge with the penknife until it's just right. It's thick, dark, and slightly acidic. It will stain your hands for days. A small sheet of blotting cloth is folded nearby, ready to catch any excess. Before the first stroke, you take a breath, and then you begin. Each one curves, arcs, and settles with care. Latin script, clean, square, upright, scratch, dip, pause, scratch. Your mind drifts only slightly, not away from the words, but into them. Around you, others work too. Each monk is a small island of candlelight, hunched over his manuscript. The candle at your side flickers as you write. The vellum beneath your quill is not paper. It's skin, calfskin, soaked, stretched, and scraped until smooth. Some pages are illuminated. You've seen the others working on them. First, the outlines in faint ink, then the gold leaf applied with breath and glue. Quiet, grounded. You are a scribe. The night thickens, and with it, the world narrows to ink and page. But even then, you know the work has value. Each stroke is a testament to faith, not only in God, but in the act of quiet diligence. A preserver, lapis lazuli from distant lands, crushed into brilliant blue, vermilion from cinnabar, even beetles sacrificed for carmine. The colors shimmer by candlelight, as though the page breathes. You are not adding anything. You are simply ensuring they do not disappear. You do not envy the illuminators. Their work is beautiful, yes, but yours is steady. The hours pass, but you do not count them. The rhythm of writing carries you through. Lines stack neatly on the page. You pause only when your hand cramps, fingers stained and stiff, joints whispering their protest. You stretch, then return to your work. Each paragraph, a step further into a story not your own, but carried through your hands. There is comfort in this simplicity. No noise, no debate, no uncertainty, just words, sacred, ancient, unchanging. Outside, the wind presses gently against the shutters. A loose latch taps quietly in the distance. Sometimes you wonder who will read this, a future monk, a scholar from a distant land, or perhaps it will be shelved and forgotten. The room fades into deeper stillness. The weight of silence increases, not oppressively, but like a blanket. The parchment rustles like leaves in winter wind. You write through the night, your body growing heavy, but your mind calm. Hours drift by. The candle's flame grows smaller. Each line you write is an anchor in the dark. And then, as the final hour approaches, you write one more line, one more psalm, one more whispered thought from centuries past. You pause, you cap the ink, wipe the nib, fold the cloth. You turn the page carefully to dry. You blow out the candle. The darkness swells, but it is not empty. It is full of your labor, of thought preserved, of breath slowed by ritual. You leave the scriptorium in silence. Behind you, the room remains filled with stories it cannot tell, and the words wait. They always do. The story ends, but the silence remains. You have walked stone corridors, tended soft soil, tasted bread baked centuries ago in imagination, and listened to the echo of prayers you never needed to say aloud. You have sat by the flicker of candlelight, your fingers stained with ink that never dries in your memory. And now, as the final thoughts fade, you find yourself still, not empty, but calm. History does not shout. It hums, it rustles, it sighs. And if you listen closely, as you have tonight, it guides you gently toward rest. Tonight, you stepped through portals made not of wood or glass, but of memory and soft narrative. You wandered dusty courtyards and cold cloisters. You traced the edges of old manuscripts with your imagination. You smelled the earth after medieval rain. You heard the pages turn in the quiet of distant libraries. You paused beside weathered fountains where monks washed their hands before prayer, and you lingered in the stillness of stone-walled rooms that held only candlelight and time. You followed stories not for their excitement, but for their rhythm. And now that rhythm continues, not with words, but with breath. A slow inhale, a deeper exhale. The way history rests in the folds of silence, you too can settle into the folds of night. The monks have gone to sleep. The bells have stopped ringing. The garden has folded itself into shadow. The words in the scriptorium have been written. The candles have gone out, and the night has deepened. And here you are, somewhere between then and now. There is no need to hold the facts tightly. You do not need to remember the Latin words, the names of herbs, the dates of worn-out kings or tired scribes. That is not why we returned to the past. We returned for something softer, for the comfort of rhythm, the repetition of lives once lived, the quiet certainty that no matter how hard or humble a day was, the sun still set and rose again. So much of history is hidden in the ordinary, not the parades or the proclamations, but the quiet rituals. A monk tying his sandals, a mother brushing straw from a cot, a farmer's boots soaked from the morning dew, a child watching. Shadows stretch across stone, and you've been there with them. You've moved among them in the stillness. And now, in your own time, you can let go of the world again. The walls of time are thick, but not impenetrable. With every breath, you've slipped further into a sanctuary where centuries whisper. There's a sacred stillness in this place, the kind of quiet you feel in your bones, the kind that hums under your skin, like the last notes of a song you almost forgot. Your breath has slowed. Perhaps your eyes have closed. Or perhaps they linger, blinking slowly in the darkness. There is no rush. Let the weight of the world lift a little now. Let the voices of the past fade into a low hum. Let the wind of time brush gently across your thoughts. You are not alone. Somewhere, across ages and continents, others have closed their eyes beneath a starless sky, on straw mattresses, or stone floors, or tucked tightly into woolen sheets. They, too, knew silence. They, too, listened to night. We so often think of the past as loud. It lived in the hush of early morning, in the scrape of bread on a wooden board, in the soft shuffle of footsteps in candlelit corridors. It lived in repetition, in the seasons returning, in the tasks done daily, year after year. And in that repetition, there was peace. So rest now in that peace. Let your thoughts soften. It's all right if your mind still wanders. If it returns to the story, let it. Let it drift back to the monastery walls, to the fields beyond, to the chapel's echo. Let it loop again and again if it wishes. There is no destination, only the quiet movement through time. The candle beside you has burned low. The ink has dried. Your quill rests beside your folded hands. You lean back. The stone wall behind you cools your skin. You listen. Outside, night creatures stir. A bird rustles in the rafters. The wind shifts through leaves. But inside, all is still. And in that stillness, you begin to fade, not in fear, but in trust. Trust in the rhythm of silence, in the continuation of breath, in the story told not in excitement, but in ease. History was not always made in battle or glory. Sometimes it was made by simply surviving a long winter, by copying one more page, by planting one more root, by folding hands in quiet prayer, by closing one's eyes at the end of a long day. Let yourself feel the weight of centuries lift. Let yourself belong to nothing but this moment. The fire has burned low in the hearth. Ash curls along the stone base. The moon sits high above the cloister roof, casting faint silver across the stones. No footsteps remain in the garden. No bells, no murmurs, only stillness. And in that stillness, the long breath of history continues. Time becomes soft. It slows. The urgency of modern life melts away, replaced by the timeless rhythm of centuries past. You do not need to remember everything. You do not need to understand it all. You only need to feel the quiet presence of the past resting beside you. Let your limbs grow heavy. Let your thoughts drift. Let the night take you gently. The hum of history is like a lullaby, steady, soothing, slow. Perhaps you see an image in your mind, a lone candle flickering softly by a monk's elbow, a quiet courtyard under a slate-gray sky, a quill dipped in ink lifted with reverence, or a chapel door just barely ajar, letting in the hush of morning fog. These are the corners of history that soothe rather than stir. And still, even now, there are echoes not of voices, but of presence. The gentle hush of cloistered routines, the steady rhythm of feet on cold flagstones, the unbroken silence of stone arches bowing overhead. You have been walking through one long twilight, one long corridor of forgotten footsteps, and now you can pause, rest, breathe. There is nothing more to do. The work of the day is done. The past has been honored in this room, beneath these words. Beneath this history, you are safe. You are still. You are home. And when your thoughts drift once more, they may return to this sanctuary, this echo of lives once lived, this comfort wrapped in old linen, old parchment, old prayer. This is the end of this story, but not the end of rest. Let the quiet take you. Let the hum of time carry you. Let the stillness of centuries soothe you. You do not need to stay awake for the rest. We will still be here when you return, when the next night falls, when history calls again, not loudly, but gently. And if you listen, you'll hear it in the shuffle of straw, the sigh of old stone, the scratch of a quill, the echo of bells long silenced, and the softness of a single breath before sleep. Good night, sleep well. The past is at peace, and now, so are you. The story ends, but the silence remains. You have walked stone corridors, tended soft soil, tasted bread baked centuries ago in imagination, and listened to the echo of prayers you never needed to say aloud. You have sat by the flicker of candlelight, your fingers stained with ink that never dries in your memory. And now, as the final thoughts fade, you find yourself still, not empty, but calm. History does not shout. It hums, it rustles, it sighs. And if you listen closely, as you have tonight, it guides you gently toward rest. Tonight, you stepped through portals made not of wood or glass, but of memory and soft narrative. You wandered dusty courtyards and cold cloisters. You traced the edges of old manuscripts with your imagination. You smelled the earth after medieval rain. You heard the pages turn in the quiet of distant libraries. You paused beside weathered fountains where monks washed their hands before prayer, and you lingered in the stillness of stone-walled rooms that held only candlelight and time. You followed stories not for their excitement, but for their rhythm. And now that rhythm continues, not with words, but with breath. A slow inhale, a deeper exhale. The way history rests in the folds of silence, you too can settle into the folds of night. The monks have gone to sleep. The bells have stopped ringing. The garden has folded itself into shadow. The words in the scriptorium have been written. The candles have gone out, and the night has deepened. And here you are, somewhere between then and now. There is no need to hold the facts tightly. You do not need to remember the Latin words, the names of herbs, the dates of worn-out kings or tired scribes. That is not why we returned to the past. We returned for something softer, for the comfort of rhythm, the repetition of lives once lived, the quiet certainty that no matter how hard or humble a day was, the sun still set and rose again. So much of history is hidden in the ordinary, not the parades or the proclamations, but the quiet rituals. A monk tying his sandals, a mother brushing straw from a cot, a farmer's boots soaked from the morning dew, a child watching. Shadows stretch across stone, and you've been there with them. You've moved among them in the stillness. And now, in your own time, you can let go of the world again. The walls of time are thick, but not impenetrable. With every breath, you've slipped further into a sanctuary where centuries whisper. There's a sacred stillness in this place. The kind of quiet you feel in your bones, the kind that hums under your skin, like the last notes of a song you almost forgot. Your breath has slowed. Perhaps your eyes have closed, or perhaps they linger, blinking slowly in the darkness. There is no rush. Let the weight of the world lift a little now. Let the voices of the past fade into a low hum. Let the wind of time brush gently across your thoughts. You are not alone. Somewhere, across ages and continents, others have closed their eyes beneath a starless sky, on straw mattresses, or stone floors, or tucked tightly into woolen sheets. They, too, knew silence. They, too, listened to night. We so often think of the past as loud. It lived in the hush of early morning, in the scrape of bread on a wooden board, in the soft shuffle of footsteps in candlelit corridors. It lived in repetition, in the seasons returning, in the tasks done daily, year after year. And in that repetition, there was peace. So rest now in that peace. Let your thoughts soften. It's all right if your mind still wanders. If it returns to the story, let it. Let it drift back to the monastery walls, to the fields beyond, to the chapel's echo. Let it loop again and again if it wishes. There is no destination, only the quiet movement through time. The candle beside you has burned low. The ink has dried. Your quill rests beside your folded hands. You lean back. The stone wall behind you cools your skin. You listen. Outside, night creatures stir. A bird rustles in the rafters. The wind shifts through leaves. But inside, all is still. And in that stillness, you begin to fade, not in fear, but in trust. Trust in the rhythm of silence, in the continuation of breath, in the story told not in excitement, but in ease. History was not always made in battle or glory. Sometimes it was made by simply surviving a long winter, by copying one more page, by planting one more root, by folding hands in quiet prayer, by closing one's eyes at the end of a long day. Let yourself feel the weight of centuries lift. Let yourself belong to nothing but this moment. The fire has burned low in the hearth. Ash curls along the stone base. The moon sits high above the cloister roof, casting faint silver across the stones. No footsteps remain in the garden. No bells, no murmurs, only stillness. And in that stillness, the long breath of history continues. Time becomes soft. It slows. The urgency of modern life melts away, replaced by the timeless rhythm of centuries past. You do not need to remember everything. You do not need to understand it all. You only need to feel the quiet presence of the past resting beside. You. Let your limbs grow heavy. Let your thoughts drift. Let the night take you gently. The hum of history is like a lullaby, steady, soothing, slow. Perhaps you see an image in your mind, a lone candle flickering softly by a monk's elbow, a quiet courtyard under a slate-gray sky, a quill dipped in ink lifted with reverence, or a chapel door just barely ajar, letting in the hush of morning fog. These are the corners of history that soothe rather than stir. And still, even now, there are echoes not of voices, but of presence. The gentle hush of cloistered routines, the steady rhythm of feet on cold flagstones, the unbroken silence of stone arches bowing overhead. You have been walking through one long twilight, one long corridor of forgotten footsteps, and now you can pause, rest, breathe. There is nothing more to do. The work of the day is done. The past has been honored in this room, beneath these words, beneath this history. You are safe. You are still. You are home. And when your thoughts drift once more, they may return to this sanctuary, this echo of lives once lived, this comfort wrapped in old linen, old parchment, old prayer. This is the end of this story, but not the end of rest. Let the quiet take you. Let the hum of time carry you. Let the stillness of centuries soothe you. You do not need to stay awake for the rest. We will still be here when you return, when the next night falls, when history calls again, not loudly, but gently. And if you listen, you'll hear it in the shuffle of straw, the sigh of old stone, the scratch of a quill, the echo of bells long silenced, and the softness of a single breath before sleep. Good night, sleep well. The past is at peace, and now, so are you.